Remember when Glossier was the beauty brand for like that cool girl, minimalist, chic kind of thing? The pink bubble wrap, I love that stuff. The dewy skin, the no makeup look. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, because it looks like that era's over now. Permanently over. Despite once being the go-to brand for millennial beauty lovers, Glossier has been going through a bit of a transformation recently. Over the last few years, they made some major changes to their marketing strategy, sales channels, and overall branding. They're giving us like moodier adverts, bolder makeup, and a whole lot less pastel pink. Millennial pink, I should say. It's a noticeable shift from what was once an iconic brand, an iconic look for the brand, and it's clear they're aiming their products and their new aesthetic at a very different audience. So today I want to take a look at how Glossier got their cult status with millennials, how it went wrong, and what the brand is doing in attempts to make a comeback. Now let's start with how Glossier became like a millennial icon in the first place. I covered Glossier's story in detail, very much detail in this video, Bye Bye Girl Boss, the downfall of Glossier. So I'll just give a very quick recap here because I've done so many videos on Glossier. So although Glossier's entry into the beauty world came in 2014, the foundation of the brand was laid about 4 years earlier when founder Emily Weiss, I always forget how to say her last name, launched her beauty blog Into the Gloss while still working at Vogue. The blog very quickly gained a cult following, with readers drawn in by like the product reviews, the beauty tips, and most of all, the candid interviews and behind the scenes look into the lives of celebrities, models, and fashion icons. And it was whilst working on Into the Gloss that Weiss developed her idea for Glossier. She felt like the beauty industry was missing a brand that really focused on building a community and listening to what the consumer wanted. And the industry at the time was really dominated by legacy brands who were cumbersome and somewhat slow to react to consumer feedback. They pretty much told consumers what they wanted, and we were like, yeah, I guess, instead of like listening to what the consumers actually wanted. So instead, Weiss took the feedback she saw every day on Into the Gloss and used it to shape her new beauty brand and develop products that people were really actually asking for. The result was Glossier. At the time, a community obsessed brand that aimed to disrupt the way beauty products were designed, marketed, and sold. The brand launched in 2014 with just 4 key products, setting itself apart from big brands by embracing a minimalist skincare focus philosophy and their famous catchphrase of skin first, makeup second, which contrasts so heavily with the like full face of glam, contour heavy aesthetic, which had been dominating the beauty industry at the time. And this philosophy really worked for Glossier. Millennials in particular were ready for something new. A lot of them had grown tired of what the beauty industry was pushing on them, like that whole Instagram face, you know? And right from the start, they connected with what Glossier were doing. And rather than pushing this idea of perfection, Glossier encouraged their customers to focus on the beauty they already had, emphasizing dewy skin, fluffy brows, and natural features. All the products in their initial launch were popular, but some, like Balm.com, quickly became a must-have for many beauty fans. Lip balms always do really well for brands, and the hype would kind of continue from there, really. Products like the Milky Jelly Cleanser, Boy Brow, the Cloud Paint became instant hits upon release, cementing Glossier's reputation as the beauty brand for a new generation of beauty enthusiasts. Outside of the product formulations and overall brand philosophy, other factors like their clever branding and direct-to-consumer sales model also helped make Glossier the must-have brand at the time. It was so visually appealing, like everybody wanted it on their Instagram. And even though it seems like it might be counterintuitive to not have your products available through other major retailers, this actually helped Glossier at first because it kind of reinforced that kind of like feeling of community with the consumer. It made them feel like they were part of something special, something kind of disruptive at the time. The brand did eventually open a small number of their own retail stores, but even these were more of an experience for consumers. They kind of felt like pop-ups, you know, rather than main sales channels. And when it comes to branding, the millennial pink packaging, the minimalist fonts, and the aesthetically pleasing product photos help make Glossier the most talked about beauty brand on social media. I remember purely buying Glossier because I liked the way it looked and the products were fine. It was at a time when Instagram was at its peak culturally, Glossier was the most Instagrammable brand around. They nailed the branding so well that even the pink bubble wrap pouches that they shipped orders out in became iconic. Like, you could buy them on eBay, like people want them. And all this really did help the brand connect deeply with their millennial audience, who were, as I mentioned, just so tired of what these legacy brands were offering them at the time. Glossier made beauty feel more personal, more collaborative, and honestly a lot more fun. The no makeup look they were pushing was exactly what many younger, especially consumers, were looking for at the time. I would say what many younger consumers needed at the time, and Glossier nailed it. In fact, they got so much right in those early days that it took Glossier less than 5 years to reach a valuation of over $1 billion. That made it one of the fastest beauty brands to ever reach that milestone at the time. This was arguably Glossier's peak as a brand. In just 5 years, they'd become the brand that defined a generation. But the time at the top couldn't last forever, as we know, and Glossier's fall from grace was just around the corner. Let's talk about how it fell apart. The first signs of trouble really came with the launch of Glossier Play, a sub-brand focused on color cosmetics. It was a bizarre choice, I guess you could say, given that it was the complete opposite of what Glossier were well known for, their barely there approach to beauty. And unsurprisingly, Glossier Play received a very lackluster response from their fans who didn't understand why. They were like, why would you launch this? Why would you launch something that's so different from what they were known for and what their customers wanted? They probably just wanted to try and reach a new audience, but no. Although it was perhaps the first real mistake the brand had made so far, it was just a blip in the road compared to what came next. Alongside struggles all brands faced during the COVID pandemic, Glossier also faced their biggest controversy to date. As the Black Lives Matter movement gained support following the murder of George Floyd, Glossier was one of many brands that openly supported the movement and pledged funds to organizations fighting racial injustice. But instead of being praised for their actions, Glossier immediately faced accusations that their apparent allyship was purely performative, and many of the accusations were coming from the brand's own employees. A large group of their former retail employees created an Instagram account called Out of the Gloss, where they shared stories exposing alleged racism, mistreatment, and toxic work culture at Glossier. There were reports that these staff members in the retail stores had to endure customers touching their hair, grabbing their arms or faces to show off their skin tone or complexion to a friend. And they claimed that basically when they reported these instances to HR, nothing was done about it at all. And these employees were reprimanded for failing to satisfy customers. Staff members also pointed out that Glossier's corporate staff were almost entirely white, whereas over half of the retail staff were people of color. This wasn't a good look for a brand that had claimed to be inclusive since they first launched. And the controversy severely damaged Glossier's reputation among a consumer base that was increasingly concerned about inclusivity and morality from the brands that they were using and supported. And all of this came at a time when competition and innovation in the beauty world was growing rapidly. When Glossier first launched, there weren't many other brands that felt fresh, that were community focused, or that capitalized on social media to be successful. But by the early 2020s, the beauty world was flooded with brands that did these things as well as, if not better than, Glossier. On top of all this was this kind of like bizarre fact that the founder and CEO, Emily Weiss, had apparently been wasting millions of dollars trying to turn Glossier into some kind of tech company. I go into this in more detail in my other video. I think there's a lot of time when CEOs suddenly try to go into tech for some reason, like it was meant to be the next big thing. According to some, she had a strange obsession with wanting to be seen as this tech guru, like Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg, whatever it is, I don't care. For years, she had been building an expensive tech team and had been trying to develop some kind of app, though nobody is really sure what the app was supposed to do exactly or what it was. Like, no one really knows. Then she tried switching to building a social media platform that was similar to Facebook, where people could shop and chat, but none of these plans never really produced anything. Eventually, the company's board of directors got tired of the declining sales, the controversies, and wasted money on the tech side of the business, so they kind of forced Emily Weiss to step down as CEO in May of 2022. This is where the rebuild kind of begins. Kyle Lie, I want to say, or Lie, Glossier, a former executive at Nike and Cole Haan, was brought in to replace Weiss, and she led the brand's attempts to rebuild and restore their reputation. To be fair, she had a pretty big job on her hands, but she started in possibly the best way she could. In recent years, the brand had strayed away from their roots of being a community-focused brand that listened to their customers, but Kyle helped them get back on track by asking Glossier's customers what they wanted from the brand. And the responses told her that people wanted to be able to find Glossier on shelves in major retail chains. They wanted the brand to ship worldwide, and most of all, they wanted new products on a far more regular basis than what they'd been getting. It was like a Blackpink comeback, you know? Not many people are gonna get that reference, but it felt like once every 3 years, huge fans of Glossier were getting something. And it was usually just a new Balm.com color. To be fair to her, Kyle listened to a lot of this feedback, and within less than a year, Glossier ended their long run as an exclusively direct-to-consumer brand, launching in 650 Sephora stores throughout the US. And on top of that, she also promised to increase investment in product development so that Glossier could return to launching new products every 4 to 8 weeks, which would be much more frequent than it had become for the brand in the recent years. And that promise has actually been kept. From early 2023 onwards, Glossier has returned to launching products on a regular basis every 4 to 6 weeks. That feels excessive though. Does that not feel excessive to you? I don't know. And the request from many customers for Glossier to start shipping worldwide had also been answered. For 9 years, Glossier only shipped to a very limited number of countries, but in October of 2023, the brand expanded that shipping to include over 180 countries worldwide. Delivery may not always be the quickest, it's very, very slow. It usually takes weeks for your order to arrive, sometimes up to a month, depending on where you are in the world, but at least it's an option in most countries now. So rebuilding Glossier under new leadership got off to a pretty good start in the first couple of years. But although Kyle had addressed several major issues consumers had with the brand, her work was far from done. Fixing these issues was mostly for the benefit of the consumers, who were still fans of the brand, who had actively still wanted to buy their products. But what about rebuilding that trust with the customers they had alienated through their controversies and dramas? And what were Glossier going to do to stand out in an increasingly competitive market? Glossier's problems weren't just about where they sell their products or how often they release new products. It was also about who they're selling to and how they're marketing themselves. In short, Glossier needed a major rebrand. And this was a start of a new era. For almost a decade, millennials had been Glossier's core audience, but in the last 5 years, millennials have really kind of started to move away from the no makeup trend or the clean girl aesthetic. Now they're more interested in formulas based on potent actives. They know about percentages of actives and seeing more visible results from their skincare. I always said Glossier was a brand you use if you already had good skin. It's not a brand I would go to transform my skin in any way. And you know, it wasn't enough for a brand to just have a cool image anymore. Their products need to be effective. And unfortunately, this wasn't something Glossier were really known for. They were very much an image first, results second kind of brand, as I mentioned. Like, none of their products were like ever anything innovative or revolutionary. They were just basic products, like their own version of the Ordinaries kind of stuff in nice packaging that you could put stickers on, marketed to people who already had perfect skin. It was all about showing off the skin you already had, not about improving your skin or fixing any issues that you may have. So alongside retail expansion, shipping expansion, and increased product releases, Kyle Leahy also began to slowly rebrand Glossier. Marketing campaigns began to feature a more diverse range of faces and styles, hoping to connect with more than just that original Glossier girl, but with a much broader audience that had previously felt excluded by Glossier's focus on people with naturally great skin. But the rebrand went further than that. Leahy seemed to accept that they had lost a large percentage of their millennial audience, and that getting them back would be very, very difficult. So instead, she brought in new creative directors and marketing strategists and switched the brand's focus to appealing to Gen Z. And one of the first steps towards this goal came with Glossier bringing Olivia Rodrigo on board as their first ever celebrity partner. Olivia Rodrigo, a Gen Z icon, her name alone has played a big part in helping Glossier re-establish themselves with a younger audience, and it's led to a fair amount of success for the brand in recent years. When the partnership partnership first started, Glossier added a new page to their website titled Olivia's Favorites, where she talked about what her favorite Glossier products were. They included the Ultra Lip Lipstick, the Pro Tip Liquid Eyeliner, and the legendary Boy Brow Grooming Pomade. Everyone loves that one. And all of these free products saw a significant increase in sales as a result, with younger consumers excited to copy Rodrigo's signature look. And I remember seeing this and thinking, that's really weird. In a good way, like this Glossier ad, I was like, who the fuck is that? That's not Glossier. But I liked it, but I was also like, what, at the same time? But since then, Olivia Rodrigo has featured regularly in Glossier's advertising campaigns. She's released a Get Ready With Me video showing her daily makeup routine, which obviously included multiple Glossier products. There have been multiple Olivia and Glossier collaboration products with the brand, and she always talks about her love for the brand in interviews. And her involvement has really helped Glossier transition from the clean, minimalist look that they had been known for towards a more soft grunge, Y2K inspired aesthetic that has become hugely popular with Gen Z in recent years. And Olivia Rodrigo really did feel like a natural fit, in my opinion, for this look. I guess her kind of makeup style, from what I've seen, is considered quite minimal in comparison to others. I do look at her and think skin first, so I feel like they got this perfect balance between makeup staples, but still with that skin first kind of approach. But Olivia Rodrigo isn't the only reason behind the brand's growing popularity with Gen Z. They've also managed to find viral success on TikTok recently, which is huge nowadays, perhaps most notably with their You Eau de Perfume, when it went viral on the site at the end of 2022. Their perfumes are nice, I quite like them. As is usually the case, this didn't start with a conscious push by Glossier. Instead, they just kind of got lucky when somebody was talking about how much they love the scent and it just so happened to go viral. But they did jump on that virality super, super quick, sending bottles of perfume to hundreds of TikTok influencers, paying to boost viral videos, and increasing production to match the rising demand. And again, it definitely paid off for them. Reports show that Glossier sold 5 times as many bottles of You in 2023 as they did in 2021, and at one point selling a bottle of perfume every 20 seconds. And it was even the top selling perfume in 2023 in Sephora. And since then they got like 2 other perfumes, all are really, really nice. You Rêve and You Do and You Fleur, my French is really good again, all of which have been hugely successful. I really like this purple one. I love this one, it's really, really nice, but this has made Glossier's perfume line some of their best selling products nowadays, and also some of their most profitable. This move away from targeting millennials as their main audience didn't just stop at how they were marketing the brand and who they were marketing to, it also affected what kind of products that they were releasing, as well as the overall aesthetic of the brand, of course. Like I said earlier, millennials had just started to want more from their beauty brands, especially on the skincare side of things. They wanted actives, innovation, and effective formula, and Glossier was never going to be that kind of like science-led or dermatologist-backed beauty brand. I don't think that's ever been their thing, and I don't think that's something they want, but they had to do something else. So instead of trying to be more clinical or scientific, they just kind of subtly shifted their focus away from skincare and adjusted their aesthetics slightly to appeal to a younger audience. Their color palette has become a little less pastel and a little bit bolder. They haven't moved entirely away from their iconic pastel millennial pink. They've added, you know, like a little bit more color, right? Like a little bit more fun, a little bit more opportunity for expression. So not quite Glossier play, but like somewhere in between, you know? And this shift is probably most noticeable in the products themselves. The early standout products for Glossier were things like Boy Brow, the Milk Jelly Cleanse, as we mentioned, their Cloud Paint, Balm Dotcom, which were all about subtlety. They celebrated that minimal effort and natural beauty. But now, products like Ultra Lip, G Sweet, and their #1 pencil offer kind of like more brighter and vibrant color choices. There's more opportunity now to experiment with your look using Glossier products, to try something different and to be more expressive. The goal isn't just to look like you're wearing nothing. It's to look like you, but amplified. And I find this so interesting because for a brand who kind of wanted to differentiate themselves from big beauty at the time and let the consumers decide like who they wanted to be, their brand didn't really allow for any expression whatsoever. They kind of told you who to be. This wasn't a brand for everyone to express themselves. This was a brand for people who looked a certain way, clean girl, no skin issues whatsoever. So it's kind of weird. I feel like their newer approach is more so what they were kind of going for in the first place, despite them being so successful to start with. Do you know what I mean? To be fair, skincare does still make up a decent portion of Glossier's sales, but I don't think many people are flocking to Glossier because of their skincare anymore. I cannot tell you the last time I saw a Glossier skincare product review. I don't remember it at all. They're going to Glossier for the makeup and the fragrances, which are great, and they're picking up some skincare while they're there, maybe a Balm.com. Even the merch seems to have become a bigger focus in the skincare nowadays. Where Glossier once sold minimalist tote bags and sweatshirts, which are quite nice actually, they've expanded their merch offering in recent years to feature a wider range of more fun, kind of like novelty items, like the Kitty Spa headband, a mirror that looks like a laptop, and even a padlock shaped like a cherry for some reason. Some long-term fans of the brand have complained about this, saying that the brand isn't focusing enough on skincare anymore, and that they're spending way too much time messing about with ridiculous merch, but maybe that's kind of the point. Like, if you look at Glossier's kind of like Temu style merch and wonder why on earth are they selling that, then you might just not be Glossier's target audience anymore. So, is this all working? With all the effort they're putting into targeting a new audience, is Glossier's rebrand actually working for them? I mean, the short answer is sort of. Yeah, sort of. At least in the short term. The Olivia Rodrigo collab, the TikTok virality, and the subtle shift in the brand's aesthetic has all helped Glossier appeal to a younger Gen Z audience. Sales have increased over the last few years as well, with the fragrance line doing particularly well for them. I keep having to Google how to pronounce this lady's last name. And after Leahy took over, the brand saw some growth in sales during 2022, but things really took off in 2023, where they reached annual sales of $275 million, which was 73% higher than the previous year. And those figures were undoubtedly helped by the brand's move into major retail stores like Sephora in the US, Space & K here in the UK, and Mecca in Australia and New Zealand, the biggest retail stores in all those countries. And their online presence is still strong as well, with reports stating that Glossier's website brought in $134 million alone in 2024, which was an increase of more than 10% on the previous year. But as we've seen with other brands that have gone viral with Gen Z, sustaining that popularity is a really difficult task. Glossier's overall sales figures for 2024 haven't been released, which usually isn't a good sign. Like, usually brands are like, oh my god, look how well we're doing. But they're staying quiet. Brands love to tell you when they're making record sales or improving on previous years, but when the sales drop, those announcements suddenly disappear. And that's likely the case here. We've been told about Glossier's website sales being higher in 2024 because that's good news. But reports have also suggested that the brand's overall sales for 2024 had actually dropped compared to 2023, with their 2024 sales estimated to be between 200 and 250 million. Some people are worried that Glossier is playing a very risky game, shifting away from their long-term millennial customer base to chase like a new audience in Gen Z. They're definitely alienating millennials even further with the direction the brand is taking. But to be honest, I'm not sure they had much choice. They'd already lost too much trust with millennials in the first place, and it would require a much more drastic shift in philosophy and branding in order to compete with the more scientific, results-orientated brands that millennials favor these days. I think especially as we get older, we want to physically see results. But that doesn't mean that standing out to Gen Z is easy in any way whatsoever. There is a ridiculous amount of competition in the beauty world at the moment, regardless of what audience you're trying to reach, and also a lot of crossover. So the question is, with competition from brands like Rhode, Elf, Glow Recipe, and so on, there's so many, can Glossier continue to compete for Gen Z's attention, or are they already starting to slide out of relevance again? Whatever happens, it does seem like Glossier are betting everything on Gen Z at the moment. They partnered with girl group Cat's Eye to promote their recent launch of lip glaze, a tinted lip oil available in 6 colourful, glossy shades. And the band's main audience is, you guessed it, Gen Z. And me. I love them. I love Cat's Eye. Everything about the brand at the moment does seem to be aimed at getting a younger generation hooked in an attempt to make Glossier as iconic as they once were to millennials. But it seems like a pretty big gamble. All these celebrity partnerships don't come cheap. Recent reports have also stated that the brand is looking to raise another 100 million in investment to help them through this transition. But it's also come out that the investors are now valuing the brand at less than $1 billion. So around half of what they were valued at just 4 years ago. That's a pretty That's a pretty stark indication of just how far Glossier has fallen in recent years. And following close behind this news was an announcement that Kyle Leahy would be stepping down as CEO of Glossier before the end of 2025. Now, whether that's her choice or if she's being forced out by the board like Emily Weiss was is unclear. But obviously, someone new will be needed to take the brand forward. And whoever that's gonna be, they won't have an easy job on their hands. So although some positive moves have been made, Glossier's rebuild certainly isn't over yet. And there are plenty of hurdles for the brand to clear before they can say they've truly made it back to their former heights. They were very high. They have a long way to go. But let me know what you think. Is targeting Gen Z a good idea? Are we seeing what might have happened with Drunk Elephant but just play out in a longer term? Can Glossier re-establish themselves as a leading beauty brand? Or do you think they're just kind of destined to slowly fade out of relevancy?